Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this very special Out for Australia event tonight, Out for Storytelling. My name's John Willers, I'm from Out for Australia, and tonight we're partnering with Ashurst to bring you an interactive workshop experience. Before we get into it, let me pass on to Andrew Carter, partner of Ashurst, to share a few words.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. I'm so pleased to welcome you all to tonight's Out for Storytelling Workshop virtual event hosted by Out for Australia Canberra. Ashurst is very proud to partner with Out for Australia Canberra for this event. I'm a partner of Ashurst based in our Sydney office. I also have a role championing our LGBTQI+ diversity stream, which is part of Ashurst's Global Diversity Program. It's my pleasure to say a few words to introduce this evening's session. Before we start, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the First Nations people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we work in Australia. The First Nations peoples being our original storytellers. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to their youth who are working towards a brighter tomorrow. I'm currently on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my particular respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Ashurst is really proud to partner with Out for Australia, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to co-present this online workshop. We hope that by doing so, we are helping support the incredible work Out for Australia does for the LGBTQIA+ community. As many of you will know, Out for Australia's mission is to provide visible mentors, role models, thought leadership, and targeted support to aspiring LGBTQIA+ professionals, and to strengthen the sense of community with their purpose to champion authenticity in the workplace, empowering students and young professionals to thrive. At Ashurst, through the work of our LGBTI network Spectrum, we support the LGBTI population of the firm and the firm's diversity agenda generally. Out for Australia's goals resonate very strongly with our Spectrum community, and I believe more generally across the whole of Ashurst. And Out for Australia's goals represent things we are striving to achieve each and every day. Tonight's event encapsulates all of these efforts, and I'm really thrilled to be taking part. I'm also thrilled that one of our talented senior associates from our Canberra office, Rachel Law, is co-presenting with John Willers tonight. Spectrum at Ashurst also aims to raise awareness of issues relating to and affecting the population and the wider LGBTI+ community. Spectrum continues to take steps through programs, initiatives, and adopting systems and processes to build a more diverse and inclusive workplace where our people can bring their whole selves to work. It provides a means for both LGBTI+ and allies to socialize and discuss issues relevant to the LGBTI+ community. Regular external events, such as tonight's workshop, allow employees of Ashurst to engage with clients and members of the broader LGBTI community to provide a safe forum to debate and discuss important issues. This evening's topic particularly resonates with me personally. At the risk of giving away too much about my age, when I first joined Ashurst over 25 years ago, we did not have a Spectrum. Professional services firms did not actively encourage diversity. There were not many out partners. It was at a time when, at least in professional services firms, it was past being acceptable to discriminate, but there were few out partners. There were some men I knew who identified as gay, though in many cases only to persons who they chose to trust. There were no out women or transgender partners that I knew of at all. I can acutely recall this environment made it very hard to feel confident that one could succeed as an out gay man. It was even tougher for anyone else who was not a straight cisgender person. Everyone in their professional career faces challenges, the colleagues or clients who do not seem to support you, the matter that goes wrong. But when one does not see role models, it is so much easier to attribute those challenges to who you are rather than to what you do. For this reason, I feel it is intensely important that we tell our stories, so the absence of them does not mean for others that there is no place for us. I'm really looking forward to hearing from John and Rachel and the discussion and workshop that will follow. I'm sure it'll be really engaging, and I thank them in advance for their time and their insights. On which note, I will now hand back to John.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And Out for Australia is certainly very pleased to have Ashurst along with us tonight. Essentially, what Out for Australia does is advocate for young LGBTQIA plus professionals to be their authentic selves in their workplaces, no matter their profession. Andrew, your comments about Spectrum, and indeed in your early career, Spectrum not even existing, really resonates with why OFA is here today. So tonight, I'd like to set the right headspace for everyone who's participating. Out for Storytelling, the aim is for Rachel and I to guide you through how to compose a personal narrative. We'll be asking you questions, and we'd love to hear your thoughts as we guide you through it. And hopefully at the end, some of you might be able to share what you've come up with us. And no doubt we'll definitely share our own with you. Now to my co-presenter, Rachel Law. Rachel, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks very much, John. As Andrew mentioned in his introduction, I am a senior associate at Ashurst. I practice in the dispute resolution group and I'm based in the Canberra office. Now, as a lawyer and particularly a litigator at that, I have for quite some time considered myself quite professionally confident. But when it came to storytelling about my life, the personal particulars, that was something that took a bit more time and practice. For a long time, I thought that my narrative didn't need to include any personal details. No one would be interested in them, and that there wasn't an appropriate forum for them to be shared. But the thing that I learned through small bits of bravery was that a public narrative speaks to those who are listening. It can bring people together to identify common challenges, and it can celebrate mutual successes. Later, I will share my own narrative, but what I hope you will take away from this workshop is that your narrative is unique and it's expressed in your own way, but it may resonate with other people who hear it. Thanks very much, John.
Exactly right, Rachel. And that is the core reason why we're putting on this workshop for you today. So you can learn how to really harness your own personal experience to propel you forward both in your professional and personal life as well. So please all have a pad next to you, as I'm sure there'll be some very interesting stuff we'll share. So let's work out, what is this concept of a public narrative? Well, it's developed by Marshall Gans, who is a Harvard public policy lecturer and was also, interestingly enough, Obama's campaign manager. The idea of a personal narrative is that it creates a connection for someone else to a cause or a central message. And you do this by displaying leadership, because what you're doing is you're harnessing your own story to compel others to take action on something. With a public narrative, there are three elements here. First, there is something called a story of self. That's where you look at your own experiences, your own background. Then you use that story of your own background to resonate with your audience. The story of us. How does it link to my audience? And how can I create a purpose for myself and my audience that we can use together? Finally, you sum it up with a cause, the story of now. Why should what we are here to do together change the present? What we'll be focusing on today is really the first part, that idea of the story of self and how you can use your own personal experiences to start harnessing others' potentials to create a joint outcome. So let's have a quick think about how and where this might be useful. Rachel, do you have any ideas?
Really anywhere, John. And that's probably the power of it. It's something that can have a small or quite narrow audience, or it can really you can take it as far and as broad as an audience you can find. It can often be sharing, you might be asking for something in the workplace. You might be looking for new work, a promotion, some kind of change. And it can be you speaking about your personal experiences, what it is that you've experienced to make you you, that can really propel you forward into that kind of a discussion about the thing in the workplace. So I would say that it doesn't, there is no correct answer to that, John.
Exactly, there really isn't a correct answer. It's got a very broad application. You can use it through a personal time to assist someone through that you know and love through a very tough time they might be going through. Or where it's helped me in particular is the answer to the very dreaded, so tell us about yourself, first question in interviews, which really frustrates me sometimes. But learning how to do this has given me the confidence to show a little bit more about myself and how that can be relevant to the role at hand that I'm interviewing for. So, participants, let's dig in and get our hands dirty. Let's start by thinking about what elements we need to start composing your own story of self. Start by thinking about what change you want to make in the world. So here, you look at your feelings, your aspirations, and what you really value in your life. Then harness those things and think, why do you actually want to make the change? So your values are often influenced by your previous experiences in life. Often, a good way to figure these out is to ask, what major things happened in my life that made me get to where I am now? I encourage you to have a thought of one or two significant events so far in your life that have caused you to be where you are today and pop them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. For example, at a big event for me that happened previously was, of course, moving out of home. It's a big event for everyone, but in particular, moving out of home straight to the East Coast and not knowing anything about it. There was feelings of fear, but aspirations of hope and that I would actually be able to land on my 2 feet. And I knew that I had a value of discipline to help me through whatever the tough times might be, but it was still very scary not knowing what they were. But I knew I could stand by that discipline that I knew I have. That's, I guess, breaking down my values, fear, aspirations, and feelings from that particular event that can make me understand more about what makes me unique. Rachel, I'm curious to hear if you have anything on this.
Yeah, one example that I would like to share is it was a time when I was at a previous firm, and every year at the end of the financial year, the partners would host a dinner, an end of financial year dinner, where the lawyers, romantic partners, as we would call them, would be invited. Lots of partners in the life of a law firm. You've your law partners, your romantic partners, and they were all going to be in the same room. In this particular workplace, I hadn't come out. I had maybe been out to 1 or 2 people. So there were fears of trepidation, probably sheer fear, I would say, at the thought of either bringing my partner to this event or probably worse, not bringing her to the event and then facing the questions about was I seeing someone, what my sort of status and circumstances were. But I knew for me, it was important to be honest to who I was. And I thought if I could be brave, it would allow me to just this one act. If I could get through that, it would be a real step towards bringing my whole self to work. And I will touch on that a little bit later.
Certainly, but that's again is a really good example to show there was this challenge there, and there was that scared and uncertain feeling there. But there was also a lot of potential there that you could harness. And I guess with these previous events that we face in our life, both professional and personal, there will always be, I guess, that tension between the really exciting part, which makes you go, yes, I know I can do this. And the part that also makes you go, actually, there's a huge roadblock in the way and I don't know if I can. Often when there's those two feelings there, you know you're getting into the territory where you're going to learn from it. Which is, exactly scary, but it's exactly what I think we all need. We all need. Andrew, would you be comfortable sharing?
Sure, thanks, John. When you asked what had a big impact on me, I think meeting my now husband, who I met actually at work, as it happens, and actually literally under the Commonwealth Law Reports in the library in the days when we actually had books, and that person ended up actually, because he was from overseas, coming and working at the firm, which was interesting because it really meant that everybody knew about us. And I became a partner, and I remember people saying they had somebody telling me about having a discussion with the managing partner and being told that we were together, and it was a bit strange sensation to realize that people are talking about you. But it sort of really put me in a position where, because this incredibly personal part of my life was sort of a human being who was known to everybody, it becomes much easier in a way to talk about it. And I do remember at one point somebody saying to me before I became a partner, I don't know much about you. And I realized that I kept a lot of stuff about myself in. And I just took the view, I'll come to work, I'll be quite professional, and I don't really want the first thing people know about me to be that I'm gay. I want them to judge me on my performance and what I can do. But having my husband, as he now is, in the work environment, who had moved to Australia to be with me, really was sort of, it pushed me into having to sort of just be very open about it. It made it very easy. It's always easier when sort of people know you've got a person, and I think that's a bit weird, that if you're single, it's somehow harder than if you've got a partner.
Interesting. But again, yeah, again, a very, I guess, tough experience as well. And again, there's that same tension there being, will it affect how others see me? I think again, and I guess being able to use this technique of explaining those very vulnerable parts of ourselves, or a personal side that we're confident about, really shows that, well, no, actually, it doesn't affect how that person thinks of me or how they might think of me. But the perception is there's always the initial fear that we have ourselves about it, that it will cause a problem. And I guess part of starting with your, I guess, history of important choices in life, recognizes, well, yeah, there was the fear, but it didn't stop me. And in fact, it didn't affect how others think about me. And that in turn grows confidence, of course. Great examples. Thank you very much. So I guess central to each of these previous experiences, remember is that sense of challenge, but also we went through it. So learning to harness why we went through it, what made us want to take that very difficult step to show, ourselves individually or others, that we could do it. What was the real motivating factor there to drive you to address that challenge head on? I guess going back to my major event, the major challenge for me was a sense of curiosity. I wanted to see what else was out there. And I knew that with that curiosity comes experience. And I knew that with the curiosity and experience, I would be able to really grow into myself and find myself better with a huge move to another place. I guess, Rachel, with your example, what motivated you to want to bring your partner to that work event for the first time?
Yeah, I think it was probably a combination of two factors, really. The first of which was probably the most important, in that the partner that I was with at the time was someone that I had been together with for 7 or 8 years. And I just thought it was incredibly sad, if nothing else, if I didn't feel comfortable or safe or invited enough to be able to take her to that event. Work is a very, very large part of my life. She would see, I guess, the good and the bad. And I just thought, if I can't share this one good thing with her, let her see into my world and perhaps sort of understand it a bit more, that would just be disappointing. And to be honest, I think any partner or person would deserve better. But secondly, I really just thought, I had been out in really every other aspect for my life for probably about 10 years. But it was really just the, I guess, private firm, the sort of corporate world, where that was really my last horizon. And I guess I had self-belief reasons that I thought would limit me from being open in the corporate world. Would it hold me back? Did I need some other kind of minority group to include myself in? But so in that respect, I think it was frustration. And I just thought, it was that combination of the just sheer sadness if I wasn't going to be brave enough to take my partner to the event, but then also just a frustration on, well, everyone else is bringing their partners, why can't I bring mine? And I think the combination of those two was what pushed me over the line.
I mean, a bit of a sense of maybe even frustration there, I mean, yeah.
All self-inflicted, of course.
But I think that's the scary thing about this exercise, is that all those feelings are self-inflicted, or it's a perception that they're self-inflicted, and we might feel like we're internalizing that, when we're not. We're just feeling it. We're just feeling it, and that's our, I guess, reaction at that time. The important link, of course, when we go through this narrative, is then being able to link the feelings we had at that time to a learning. So I guess going back to your example, Rachel, what was the outcome? How did it go?
We both put on sparkly cocktail dresses, the high heels, and turned up at the event. I'm not sure how we made it to the car park, but it was really when I was getting out of the car that I thought, what have we done? But the outcome, of course, we were very fortunate in that there were plenty of surprised faces, some very awkward conversations, but my partner was welcomed and treated in the same way that every other lawyer's partner was treated that night. So it was very positive, and we turned up. So I always sort of say that we made it, we got out of the car. That was the positive thing.
And they they've come to future events and very much involved with those as well.
Begrudgingly, yes.
Wonderful. No, wonderful, excellent. But often taking that first step out of the car is the hardest step. But amazing to hear. I guess with mine, what was the outcome? If I didn't make the move, and if I didn't go through 6 months of trying to complete my postgraduate study and find a job, while not really working, mind you, and having to learn about properly budgeting, moving places 6 times over 6 months to keep the rent low, and also just realizing that just taking in a new environments all the time and new people all the time, it wouldn't have led me to, I guess, be in Canberra, in Ngunnawal country, where I am now. And if I stayed back where I was living before, I would not be, I guess, at my stage of my personal nor professional life as where I am now. I probably would have been stuck, still trying to find a job in a very inflated market in Perth, where there's very little prospects for me for when I was studying. And I probably wouldn't have known myself what I could do, and really the discipline that I actually do have, and the hard work that I do have to make an outcome happen, if I didn't move, because I was absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified. But the biggest lesson is that it's okay. It worked out fine. And I proved myself that I could set the goals that I needed to get me to where I am today. And that's worked out. So taking that example, I guess, let's link it to a conclusion or an important message that we want to share with other people. And for me, and the biggest lesson I've learned from this one event is just trust yourself. Just trust your gut. If you want to do something, but you're feeling mixed feelings about it, but at the end of the day, your gut is telling you to do it, just do it. Worry about how you're going to get through it as things happen, because you don't know how they're going to happen, but just get the process started and you will learn new things, exciting things, and know amazing things about yourself that you would not have known 6 months ago. So I guess going to your event, Rachel, I guess if you were to summarize that as to a core message that you wanted to share with others from it about your learnings about it, and
Yeah.
what would that be?
I think the learnings that I took from that are derived from what I started to feel in the days after that event. Firstly, I noticed just the following day at work why they put these things on a Thursday night. I have no idea. But the next morning at work, I just felt lighter. I wasn't aware that there was a weight on my shoulders or something that I was necessarily holding back, that it would have, I guess, the effect on me that it did physiologically. So there was the feeling lighter. But then the other thing that I noticed was that one act of bravery of the getting out of the car, walking into that event, it invited people, I guess, to comment about my personal life. And while I didn't love that for a very long time, I've got a lot better now, it just the simplicity of being able to talk about your weekend and being able to use she or my girlfriend or, very clear female pronouns, that they were conversations that other people in the office could then hear. And there were actually a couple of people that ended up coming up to me on two separate occasions, just to say how that bravery, they couldn't believe that I took my female partner to this particular dinner and that I would speak about her openly in the workplace, that had given them some courage, and they were now considering bringing their same-sex partner to a future event. So really, what I learned was something that was such a vulnerability for me had the ability to impact and make things slightly easier or slightly more normal or more seen for some other people. So really what the takeaway for that was for me was that it was just how powerful it was to others that I had been brave enough to live my truth in that particular moment, making that decision.
And through making that decision and living that truth in that moment, the feedback to others as well is you can actually make a difference in your own way too. It doesn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not all grandeur statements of taking your partner to an event, but it can be just applied on a range of scales for a different person. And I think that's really the power of it. It's how different people who are hearing your story, they can take bits that resonate with them, and then they can use that to, I guess, empower their experiences, and it can form a basis really for encouraging their then storytelling and sharing of the narrative.
Exactly. So then with that inspiration they've harnessed, you can almost create a little web of storytelling and a web of inspiration, a web of you can make a difference in your own way. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Very very, yeah. Yeah. I would say, I guess, with my experience, it was, I guess it was a little bit more internal for me, in that the message, I guess, to others from it is, I learned I could actually make a difference to myself, but indirectly to others around me too. But I just needed to look back at the experience to realize what the difference on others was. Through me learning how to, or learning how much I was growing from the experience, I was also seeing the impact on others around me, and the positive impact of it, really. The fact that I was actually starting to make a useful contribution to an area of my career that I'm interested in, and the flow-on effect of that, which is helping helping other people with their problems and issues, and yeah.
But even John, I think what is quite probably telling in your particular scenario is that the people that would have been seeing and watching you move through that experience would have been some of the closest people to you, your friends and family. And often just your friends and family being able to see someone that they know is encountering something to be challenging or difficult or scary in some way, they can, when they see that you've done it and you're okay, the world hasn't ended, it can often improve those relationships as well.
Yeah, that's very true. And again, even inspire them to make a difficult move or choice that might have been holding them back before, even if it was something like a job or something like that too.
Exactly.
Realizing that the power within them, that there is that power there that they can actually harness and face it with. Yeah. Andrew, I'm curious to see if you have any thoughts to share as well on this.
I mean, one thing that resonates with me through this is the impact of doing the sort of brave things you've both done on others. But I think one of the impacts, I think, is it changes their perception in a really positive way because they see you as an authentic person. That piece that, you know, that they're wondering about, what's this person not telling us? Why do we never hear what they do on the weekend? And it's not necessarily, I don't think it's a conscious thought process, but it can leave people sort of feeling this person isn't open. I don't sort of just, I don't feel intimacy with them, and therefore you don't feel the same level of trust as you do with somebody who is open with you. And I think it's very easy if you're not straight, to sort of just form your little clique of friends that you talk about your personal life with at work, particularly if you're in a large organization. But the really positive effect of making these, of telling your story and letting people see who you are on a day-to-day basis, or in a big event kind of way, the positive effect is that people actually respect you because they see they now understand you that little bit better. And most people, I think, want to help, and most people are very supportive and recognize the bravery of what you've done. And I think, you know, there are very few people who have a problem. If they do, that's their problem. It's not your problem. And I think one has to realize that. And you can then just, it just enables you to be, to have better relations with a whole range of people.
Definitely. And I guess just rebounding up a little bit of your comment about it. You can't control what other people will be thinking about in response to your own story. That's part of the beauty of this, is that it is allowing you to connect with people in a meaningful way that are useful to you, or might be useful to others moving forward because they share that same value or aspirational feeling that you shared in your story with them. And so being, again, that sense of empowerment is a very special thing through this storytelling. So, well, our audience is being a little bit quiet tonight, unfortunately. Rest assured, please do chime in with any questions that you might have, or if we can break down any experiences you might have had previously, anything like that, to see how this storytelling technique can work for you, please let us know. Yeah, so I guess if I were to try and demonstrate, I guess, my own I guess public narrative, I would say, well, and you know, incorporating the example, I guess, from earlier, it could be, well, you know, I've learned that I do want to make a difference to the people around me, but that was through seeing many different people over a period of time and what they were going through. It wasn't easy. My own circumstances at the time wasn't easy, but with recognizing that I was in a unique situation to assess all of that and learn about myself at the same time, made me really want to help people through other times that they might have, or sorry, through their own uncertainties and fear. And for me, learning that I have the discipline to be able to do that and manage that from my move, and really made me discover that I do enjoy people, and sorting out their own unique problems in life. And in that way, that has sort of inspired me to, I guess, be the family lawyer I am today. I found that as well, this narrative technique and way of sharing my own experiences has helped me actually manage my clients sometimes, because being able to say, well, that is a big hardship, and um, uh, I can't imagine what the hardship might be like, but I was in a similar situation at this time, and can sometimes help connect more deeper with that person, and um, create a sense of trust to continue a strong working relationship with them. So being able to, I guess, share some of these experiences further with people does help, um, again, inspire them to do what they need to do, and to help work with them better, definitely. So I hope through all of this, what we've demonstrated tonight is that sense of it's okay to be yourself, and it's okay to share with others your own experiences, because in doing so, you can really inspire others to a course of action, or an outcome that you would like them to follow. I guess, Rachel, I'd like to hear, I guess, from you, where could you perhaps use this technique in the future?
Well, I think for me, really that example I spoke of was probably the first event that really snowballed sort of a series of similar types of decisions, and being pushed into circumstances about talking about my personal life. Initially, they were very difficult conversations. I really, really did not enjoy those. And when there was a time, though, later, probably much later, everything is clear in retrospect, that I could see that separate to any inspiration that other people had gained from my actions, it was actually how I felt in myself, that the confidence that grew in my being able to be vulnerable and open with my colleagues, that led to better relationships with them. So I certainly have to circle back to that point that Andrew made about that how knowing more about a person can often make people think that they know you better, and that helps them trust you more. And I guess really the other thing for me was, once that trust grew and those relationships with people developed into probably some of the best relationships I've had with colleagues, what I noticed was my professional courage and confidence just grew. So for all this time, I had thought that I could have these two separate spheres of my life, and I ardently fought for them not to intersect. But in fact, it was actually the intersection of them, and the being sort of continually encouraged for those two spheres to intersect. It's absolutely shaped me into the person that I am today. They get easier to make these types of decisions. But so I think where for me, I would see that I would be sort of using storytelling is even just relating to my team. I have a fantastic team that I work very closely with on a whole range of matters. They work very hard. I have to give them a good plug. And something that I have just noticed it's important for me to build open, trusting relationships with them. And so I really think and probably I think some of them are on this call and could very much dog me in. But whilst I don't launch into full storytelling, every time, for instance, that we have a team meeting, I do try and share a little bit about myself and make that to be, I guess, a more open way that they can see me, and to encourage openness amongst them as well. So that's probably begrudgingly for my team. That's where it seems to come out with me at the moment.
And look, rightfully so. I mean, we do spend most of our time working, and some might say unfortunately, but it makes it much easier when you can just let down that professional wall and have a laugh with your team. Certainly, definitely.
Something Rachel said that I think is quite interesting is the reaction of people wanting to talk to you when you finally told them about your partner and they met your partner and so on. I mean, something that perhaps I forget, and I think some of us forget, is that there are actually people out there who don't really know any, or certainly not many, LGBTQI people. And it can actually really be quite transformative of their attitudes to actually see people in the workplace or just get to actually know somebody who is not straight, and can often remove a lot of misconceptions that they have. And I mean, I always feel that's part of the reason I feel like it's really important to be out at work, partly for me, because I don't want to have this, oh, what pronoun do I use rubbish anymore. No, I just don't, and I've never really wanted to, and never really have very much, to be honest. But I think it's also really important that, you know, people get to meet us and get to see that we're quite, you know, normal people really, and they're not, some of their preconceptions might not be realistic, and I think that can be very transformative. So I think that's another reason it's really important for us to tell our stories. It's partly for ourselves, it's partly because it creates better relationships with those around us, but it's also, I think, if you feel you can do it, I think it can be really, really important in empowering or changing the way people perceive people who aren't like them. I mean, that was the whole Harvey Milk thing. Get out there, get everybody out of the closet, because as soon as people know that there are their family members, their friends, particularly gay and lesbian in those days, but LGBTI, they're going to change their attitude. And that's the other reason that I think telling the story is important. It's what it does for ourselves, but it's also the positive impact it has on other people. And at the same time, I think we need to all try not to be an ambassador or feel like we've got some burden. Everybody's different. Everybody's going on their own journey, and different people some people won't feel comfortable for a whole raft of reasons. And I think, you know, it's really important to respect that as well.
It is, definitely. And part of that respect is also recognizing there are other ways to forge that connection with people. This storytelling method is not the only way, and in fact, some might think of it or critique it as being a little bit too perhaps academic as a way for us to open up and share ourselves. And that's okay. Andrew, you know, as you've mentioned, there's many different types of people, and we all, you know, this way might not suit, and that's okay. Yeah. All right. So look, I see the audience is still very quiet. Oh well, That's all right. I still hope you've learned a few tips along the way. I and no questions as well. That's okay. No problem. Always open by email as well. Well, look, on that basis, I think let's wrap up. I do again would love to thank both of you again, Rachel and Andrew, for joining us tonight. I've really enjoyed hearing your experiences, and I've really enjoyed hearing your thoughts as well on this interesting, I guess, technique that we can use to connect with others. Um, um, is there, I guess, any final words to share?
I think something that I just wanted to mention was that where this does look like quite an academic exercise, it's certainly not. I think if you are getting into opening up and starting to tell your story, don't be overwhelmed by thinking that you have to absolutely step through each of these as a process. It will often start quite small and in a way that feels natural to you. This is really just pointers and that you can utilize. But it by no means is it some kind of mandatory storytelling framework.
I think because it can be so challenging to expose yourself personally, it's great to have a framework, but as you say, Rachel, a great guide, but perhaps not always shouldn't be treated as a master sort of thing. Good servant, but a dangerous master. But I think the thing that comes out of this discussion to my mind is that, people who have done this, you've got to do it at the right time when it's right for you, but nearly everybody comes out of it and the most common reaction is, why wasn't I telling people this earlier? Why wasn't I sort of finding a way? You've got to be ready, but most of us wait too long.
I have to agree.
But the point is, even though there might have been a bit of waiting too long, it's been done at a time that's comfortable to you, and that's the most important thing about this is to have that real connection. We just need to be comfortable whenever we need to do it. And looking back at all those previous life experiences, no matter when it happens, often the way those experiences do work out can, I guess, help you realize when it might be the right time. I guess, of course, there'll always be that fear there, but often after so many other experiences, positive or otherwise, have happened, sometimes it can just be the motivating, push to just go, okay, all right, I need, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to go. Yeah. Well, thank you very much again, both.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you join.
Thank you.
Great discussion. Thank you.
Yes. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to get in touch with Out for Australia. Not to mention the further events. Hopefully we'll still start rolling out in-person events next year across different states. We're definitely working on the lead up to it. But I guess otherwise, thank you very much for your attendance, and have everyone have a wonderful festive season with your friends and family and other loved ones around you.
You too, John. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, John.
All right.
Andrew.
Have a great evening.
Okay. Pleasure, Sarah.